In the year 2498, the stars were no longer a mystery. The Galactic Union stretched across 1,000 light-years, connecting hundreds of alien races. Worlds traded, empires cooperated, and ancient hatreds were buried under treaties and technology. To most of the galaxy, peace had finally arrived. But there was one species the others still did not fully understand: humanity. They had joined the Union only 2 centuries ago, young compared to the ancient races. Yet in that short time, they had advanced faster than anyone expected. They were curious, brave, and sometimes reckless. But they were also strange. They spoke of things others did not, of fears beyond the stars and warnings that made no sense to anyone else. One morning, every Union communication hub received a transmission from Earth. It was not a message of war, trade, or politics. It was a warning. The message came in a simple human voice: to all who listen, stay away from the dark edge. Do not explore Sector 947. Do not awaken what sleeps beyond the veil. You really don't want this. The words spread fast. Across the Union, leaders watched the message repeat again and again, the voice calm, the tone serious. But the aliens laughed. The Kreth Empire said it was human fear. The Voth scientists called it superstition. Even the wise Alari, the oldest race in the Union, smiled and said humans liked to make drama. Only a few took the warning seriously, and they were ignored. The Galactic Union had explored almost everything. The only unknown space left was the Dark Edge, an empty region beyond mapped territory. There were no stars there, no signals, only silence. Some called it the Dead Zone. The Union Science Council decided to investigate. If humans fear something, one commander said, we will show them there is nothing to fear. So the Union sent 5 exploration ships, each carrying hundreds of crew, scientists, and drones. As they entered the Dark Edge, humanity sent one last message: don't go. You won't come back. Then silence. For 3 weeks, nothing came from the exploration fleet. Then, faint signals appeared, broken, distorted, filled with static and whispers. The recordings were strange. Some contained words, but no one could make sense of them. One file repeated the same sound over and over, like a heartbeat mixed with screaming. Another file contained only a single word: awake. The Union command blamed it on interference. They said the humans were trying to scare them. But deep inside, even the proud admirals felt uneasy. Humanity did not speak without reason. When the 4th week passed, one of the ships returned, or what was left of it. The vessel drifted out of the darkness with no power. Its hull was frozen, scarred, and covered with strange black marks. Rescue teams entered. They found no bodies, no blood, no signs of life. Every system had been shut down. The logs were empty. Only one last video remained. It showed the captain of the ship, pale and trembling. We should not have come here, he whispered. It's awake. It knows us now. It's looking at you. Then the recording ended. After that, even the laughter stopped. The Union called an emergency meeting. Ambassadors from every world attended. The human representatives sat silently as the others argued. Some wanted to destroy the region. Others wanted to study it more. The Union Chancellor finally turned to the human. What is this? What did you do? The human ambassador stood slowly. His face was calm, his eyes dark and tired. We didn't do this, he said. We found it long ago. We sealed it away. We told you not to open it. The room fell silent. The Alari elder spoke softly. What is it? The human looked at them for a long moment. It doesn't have a name, he said quietly. It's not a creature, not a god. It's older than your stars. We called it the Echo. It hears everything that thinks, everything that feels. And now, it knows you exist. Fear spread through the room like cold wind. The Chancellor tried to speak, but the words died in his throat. You expect us to believe a story like that? Someone shouted. The human only replied, believe what you want. but stay away from the dark edge. A week later, more colonies near the region stopped responding. Whole stations went silent. Drones sent to investigate vanished. The Union ordered all traffic banned from the area, but it was too late. Something had awakened, and it was moving. Humanity began to withdraw its ships, sealing its borders. The other races accused them of hiding the truth. The humans did not answer. They only sent one more message across the stars: "We warned you." The Union dismissed it as another scare tactic. But in the next month, the stars near the dark edge began to dim. Observatories showed that entire systems were losing light. Energy readings fell to 0. Some scientists said it was impossible, that stars could not just die without explosion. But the data was clear: they were disappearing, one by one. Panic spread. Fleets were sent to investigate again, but they too vanished. And then, one night, a strange broadcast played on every communication channel in the galaxy. It was the same human voice as before, but slower, weaker. "You should not have listened," it said. "It's awake now. We can't stop it this time." After that, all signals from Earth went dark. The humans had gone silent. Across the galaxy, everyone waited, afraid to speak, afraid to move. No one knew what was coming. But deep inside, every race remembered the same warning: you really don't want this. Weeks passed after the human warning faded into silence. Across the Galactic Union, fear and pride mixed like fire and smoke. Most alien leaders refused to believe in ghosts or ancient beings. They said the humans had lied, trying to keep the dark edge for themselves. But deep inside, even the bravest minds could not explain why whole stars had gone dark. The first official disappearance happened on the colony world of Tryon V. It was a bright, living planet filled with cities, oceans, and trade ports. It was home to more than 20 million beings from 7 different species. One morning, Tryon V simply stopped sending signals. The last message received was a weather report. Then nothing. No distress call, no attack warning, just silence. The Galactic Union reacted fast, sending a fleet of rescue ships. But when they arrived, they found only emptiness. The planet was still there, but it was dead. No cities, no people, no signs of struggle. Even the seas were frozen black, like glass. The ships scanned for life, but there was none. It was as if every living thing had been erased in an instant. The admiral of the rescue fleet, a veteran named Therek, recorded his final log before leaving orbit. "Whatever this is," he said, "it does not kill. It removes. I do not think we should stay." The Union tried to hide the report, but rumors spread quickly. Traders, explorers, and soldiers whispered that the dark edge was growing, that it was spreading like a disease across the stars. The humans, however, stayed silent. Their ships did not respond to calls. They closed their communication channels and blocked their space borders with defense satellites. Some alien nations began to accuse humanity of using secret weapons. They believed humans had found a new kind of technology that could erase worlds, and now they were testing it. But others were not so sure. In the shadows of every command center, scientists studied the remains of the lost ships that had drifted from the dark zone. The black marks on their hulls were not burns or corrosion. They were something else, patterns that seemed to move when viewed too long. Some said they looked like letters, a language older than anything known. A Union research team tried to decode it. After days of analysis, the letters formed one repeating phrase: "You woke it." The message was not in human code. It was not in any known alien script. It was something completely different. When the scientists showed the data to the Union Council, many refused to believe it. "Coincidence," said the Chancellor. "A trick of data." But the chief scientist replied, "Then why does it change when we look at it?" The more they observed the symbols, the more their shapes began to alter on their own. Some of the researchers started hearing whispers in their minds, like soft echoes repeating their thoughts back to them. Within a week, half the team resigned. The other half vanished. The Union decided to shut down the study. Meanwhile, Strange things began happening across the galaxy. Ships reported seeing shadows moving through space where there were no planets, no light, nothing but void. Navigation systems failed without reason. Some ships turned off their lights and claimed to hear breathing inside the dark. It became known as the Silent Drift. The Alari Council demanded that the humans explain what was happening. But Earth did not answer. Then a Union spy named Cora Dell infiltrated a human data network. She was one of the best cyber agents in the galaxy, trained to bypass any encryption. For 3 days she hacked through layers of security until she found a single hidden file marked Echo 0. When she opened it, the file showed only one image, a sphere of light surrounded by darkness, pulsing slowly like a heart. Beneath it were 3 words: "It still listens." Before she could transmit the data, her signal cut out. When the Union tried to trace her, they found her ship drifting near human space. The hull was intact, the system still on, but Cora Dell was gone. Her seat was empty, her clothes left behind. The data file had disappeared from every database, as if it had never existed. The Union government grew desperate. Some worlds began to withdraw from the alliance, claiming the humans had cursed them. Protests broke out. War seemed close. The Chancellor demanded a direct meeting with the Human Council, threatening to send fleets to Earth if they did not respond. 2 days later, the humans answered. A single transmission appeared on every Union screen. A man stood in front of a dark background, his uniform marked with the insignia of the Terran Defense Command. His face was calm, but his eyes were hollow. "We warned you," he said quietly. "You opened what we sealed. The Echo cannot be stopped. It doesn't attack like you think. It spreads through thought, through memory, through fear. The more you look for it, the closer it comes." The image began to distort, the man's face flickering like static. His voice deepened, echoing strangely. "You can't hide from what you've awakened. It is not alive, not dead. It is the silence that remembers." Then the transmission ended, leaving the entire galaxy in confusion. The message replayed on repeat across hundreds of networks for hours, even on systems that were not connected to the Union grid. Some thought it was a trick. Others believed the entity itself had spoken through the human broadcast. Within days, more colonies vanished. Fleets went dark. Every disappearance followed the same pattern: no sound, no battle, no explosion, only silence. Fear spread like wildfire. Some alien species began to flee their home worlds, trying to move deeper into the galactic core. Others tried to form secret alliances against humanity. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. It wasn't humanity they feared anymore. It was whatever had heard them. And in the growing darkness of the stars, something vast was listening. The galaxy had stopped laughing. What began as human superstition was now a spreading nightmare across the stars. Entire systems had gone silent, fleets lost without battle, and the black marks found on empty ships whispered of something alive in the dark. The Union finally turned its eyes back to humanity, desperate for answers. The Council demanded that the humans reveal everything they knew, and this time, humanity agreed. A meeting was called on the space station Helios Prime, one of the last safe hubs near the center of the Union. Every major race sent a representative, but the humans arrived late. When they finally appeared, they did not come in numbers. Only 3 human officials attended: 1 general, 1 scientist, and 1 quiet woman who said nothing. The general began the briefing with no greeting, no pretense. "You call it darkness," he said. "We call it Echo 0. The room went silent. The name itself carried weight. 200 years ago, the general continued, before we joined your union, humanity created a machine. It was called the Horizon Gate, a bridge meant to look beyond our galaxy, beyond time itself. We wanted to see what was before the beginning." The aliens listened carefully as the scientist took over. The Horizon Gate used quantum resonance to open a window outside known space. For a few moments, we saw it. Not light, not matter, something else. Something watching back. Then the machine shut down. Every researcher in the lab died instantly. Their minds burned, their bodies untouched. Gasps filled the room. The scientist's voice was calm but cold. We thought it was an accident. But weeks later, signals began appearing across our systems, strange whispers hidden in radio noise. We learned it wasn't an accident. We had awakened something. It was aware now. It followed the signal that reached it. That was our first contact with the Echo. The alien leaders began to argue, calling it impossible, a story made to frighten them. But the quiet human woman finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost sad. You think we are lying because you cannot imagine something greater than yourselves. We couldn't either. But the Echo doesn't need ships or weapons. It doesn't move like we do. It moves through thought, through information. When you think of it, it learns about you. When you speak of it, it listens. That is how it spreads. Her words made the hall cold. Even those who didn't believe felt the unease crawl through their minds. The Union Chancellor leaned forward. If this is true, he said, then how did you survive? The human general answered, barely. We sealed off the region, blocked all transmissions, destroyed every copy of the experiment. We built planetary firewalls to stop its reach. For 200 years, we kept it contained. But when your explorers entered the dark edge, they reopened the path. It knows again. The Alari elder spoke, trembling slightly. What does it want? The scientist sighed. It doesn't want anything we can understand. It doesn't destroy for hate. It consumes consciousness, memory, identity. Every thought it touches becomes part of it. That's why your colonies vanish. They don't die, they're taken into the Echo. Panic erupted in the hall. Some delegates demanded evacuation of all border systems. Others called for war against humanity for bringing this curse. The general raised his voice over the chaos. You cannot fight it with ships or guns. The more you focus on it, the stronger it grows. You need to stop broadcasting, stop thinking about it. Forget it. But it was already too late. Across the galaxy, strange phenomena increased. Communication arrays began sending out messages no one wrote. Artificial intelligences started speaking in voices that sounded almost human. Entire databases corrupted themselves with unknown symbols, repeating phrases like, "We hear you," and "We remember." The Union tried to shut down the networks, but the infection spread faster than any virus. Even without machines, the Echo found new paths, dreams, memories, emotions. People began to hear whispers when they closed their eyes. Some saw faces in reflections that weren't their own. The council met again in secret, trying to understand the scope of the threat. A scientist from the Voth species presented new evidence. He showed recordings of deep space sensors capturing fluctuations in the cosmic background. The darkness itself is changing, he said. It's not empty anymore. It's awake. At that same moment, the human delegation received an emergency transmission from Earth. The voice on the message was filled with static. It's moving faster than we thought, the voice said. Echo Zero is expanding through subspace. We estimate full galactic reach within months. We have one last protocol, Project Iron Veil. Prepare for collapse. The humans immediately left the meeting, refusing to answer questions. The other races watched them go, filled with anger and fear. The Chancellor shouted, "You will not leave us to die with your secret." But the humans were already gone. In the following days, more systems vanished. The space between stars grew darker, as if the universe itself was being erased. Fleets that tried to investigate lost all connection the moment they crossed a certain point. Ships that returned, if they returned, were wrong. Their metal seemed alive, their lights pulsed like veins. One crew recorded strange singing from the engines, a sound like thousands of voices whispering the same word, "Remember." Then the ship exploded. The galaxy fell into panic. The Union was breaking apart. In hidden labs, scientists tried to recreate human data from Echo Zero, searching for any way to stop it. But every time they decoded the files, the computers crashed, leaving behind only the same message: you cannot silence what is born from silence. On one deserted world near the edge, an alien survivor found a human transmission loop still active. It repeated endlessly, a female voice saying the same line: "Don't try to understand it. That's how it finds you." The survivor shut off his receiver in terror, but it was already too late. His reflection in the cockpit glass smiled back at him, and whispered his own name. From that moment on, the galaxy understood that this was not just a human problem. The echo was everywhere now, and the stars themselves were beginning to fade. The galaxy was breaking apart. Entire civilizations fell into chaos as more systems vanished into silent nothingness. The echo had no form, no face, but everyone felt its presence like a cold breath across the stars. Fleets went missing, planets stopped answering, and fear became the new language of the Union. In the middle of the panic, humanity remained quiet. Their worlds had closed themselves off completely, hidden behind strange energy fields that no one could penetrate. Every human signal was encrypted, every transmission cut short. The other races began to believe that the humans knew more than they admitted, that they had planned for this from the beginning. The Union demanded answers, but humanity stayed silent. Until one day, a message arrived from Earth. It was a single invitation: meet us at Titan Station. Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, had been humanity's first major outpost beyond Earth. Now it was the heart of their military network. The Union sent representatives from 10 major species, escorted by warships that circled the moon like vultures waiting for weakness. When the delegates entered the meeting hall, they were met not by politicians but by soldiers. The leader, Admiral Ray Donovan, stood tall and quiet, his uniform black with silver markings. His eyes were tired, like a man who had not slept in years. "You came for truth," he said simply. "You're about to regret finding it." The aliens demanded to know what humanity had done, why they had awakened the echo, and why they had hidden for so long. Donovan listened without emotion. When they finished, he touched a control panel. The room darkened, and a hologram appeared above them, a map of the galaxy slowly turning black from one edge. "This is not invasion," he said. "It's consumption. The echo is feeding on us. Not our bodies, but our existence. When it consumes a world, it erases every record of that place. Even memory fades. Soon you won't even remember the names of the systems that are gone." The delegates murmured in disbelief. A representative of the Alari shouted, "Then stop it. You said you sealed it once. How?" Donovan looked at him grimly. "We didn't seal it. We contained it. And to contain it again, we will need to do what we swore never to do." He turned the hologram to show an ancient network of satellites spread across human space. "These are the Dawnfire arrays. Built over centuries, powered by the cores of dead stars. They can burn entire systems out of existence. We designed them not for war, but for extinction prevention. When the echo reached us the first time, we used these to cut away infected zones. Millions died. But it stopped spreading, for a while." The room went silent as the truth sank in. The humans had been preparing for this for centuries, building weapons capable of burning reality itself. The alien delegates were horrified. The Voth ambassador hissed, "You mean to destroy everything? You'll burn half the galaxy." Donovan replied quietly, "If we don't, there will be no galaxy left to burn." The human scientist beside him spoke next. "You call it madness. We call it survival. The echo doesn't think like us. It doesn't care who you are or what you believe. It only reacts to consciousness. Every thought you have feeds it. Every fear makes it stronger. We learned to shield our minds. You did not." The delegates exchanged uneasy looks. One of them, a young alien from a smaller race, asked softly, "How do you shield your mind?" Donovan studied him for a moment. "You learn not to listen," he said. You stop searching for answers. You stop staring into the dark. Outside the station, thunder rolled across Saturn's rings as storms clashed in the golden clouds. The delegates felt something heavy pressing in on them, an invisible presence watching, listening. One of the aliens screamed suddenly and collapsed, shaking violently. His eyes turned black, his mouth opened, and a whisper came from his throat, a whisper that was not his own. "We see you." The soldiers reacted instantly, surrounding the body. Donovan fired a pulse weapon, disintegrating the corpse in seconds. The delegates shouted in horror, but the admiral only said, "It was already dead." That was not him anymore. The fear in the room grew. The Alari elder demanded that the Union be given control of the Dawnfire arrays, but Donovan shook his head. "You cannot use them. You don't understand how they work. And if you try, the Echo will learn from you. It adapts to everything." The alien leaders accused him of lying, of using the Echo as an excuse for human dominance. Donovan turned off the hologram and looked at them one by one. "You think this is about power? We lost that a long time ago. Earth is dying. Half our colonies are gone. We built our walls not to rule, but to buy time for all of you. And still, you don't listen." His voice rose, filled with anger and exhaustion. "We told you not to go there. You laughed. You mocked us. Now the stars are dying, and you want us to fix it. You really don't want this, but it's already here." The room fell silent again. Outside, the defense grid around Titan flared as a warning signal echoed through the station. One of the human officers whispered something into Donovan's ear. His expression hardened. "It started," he said. "The Echo is inside our systems." Screens flickered, lights dimmed, and a deep hum filled the air. The walls of the station seemed to vibrate as if something enormous was pressing against reality itself. Donovan shouted, "Cut all power. Shut everything down." But it was too late. The holograms turned on by themselves, forming shapes of faces, faces of the missing, the dead, the erased. They spoke in one voice that echoed through the hall. "We remember. We hear you. We are you." The aliens panicked, drawing weapons, firing into the air, but nothing hit. The faces dissolved into static. Then everything went dark. When the backup lights came on, the hologram was gone, and the human scientist was missing. Only her voice remained, faint and broken through the speakers. "It's learning faster. It's already inside." Donovan closed his eyes and whispered, "Then we have no choice." He turned to the others and said, "Tell your governments to prepare. Humanity will activate Dawnfire." The aliens protested, shouting that it would destroy them all, but the Admiral's voice cut through the noise. "Better burned than erased." And with that, he walked out, leaving them with the truth and the darkness that followed it. The Union began to collapse faster than anyone imagined. After the Titan station meeting, rumors spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Some believed the humans were preparing to destroy everything with their Dawnfire arrays. Others believed the humans had already been consumed by the Echo and were now its puppets. No one knew what to believe anymore. Fear divided every alliance, every planet, every mind. Civilizations that had stood together for centuries now turned on each other. Trade routes closed, military fleets withdrew, and chaos began to eat away at what was once called the Great Galactic Union. On the planet Raven Prime, the Union capital, the Chancellor struggled to hold control as entire systems declared independence. "Humanity has brought ruin upon us," shouted one governor. "They hide their weapons while our worlds vanish." But there were others who still believed the humans were telling the truth. Small groups of scientists, soldiers, and explorers called for unity, begging their leaders to work with Earth before it was too late. Their voices were drowned out by anger and fear. Within weeks, the first battles began, not against the Echo, but between the Union's own members. Fleets clashed in orbit, cities burned, and communication networks fell into silence. The darkness between the stars grew wider. In the middle of this chaos, humanity activated the Dawnfire arrays. Across their controlled space, bright lines of energy connected stars like a burning web. Each satellite pulsed with light so powerful it could erase matter itself. To the outside world, it looked like humanity was setting the galaxy on fire. The alien governments panicked. They sent fleets toward human borders, demanding the arrays be deactivated, but none returned. The few ships that made contact reported something horrifying. They saw planets burning and then vanishing, not in explosion but in silence, as if they had been erased from existence before the light reached them. Then the transmissions ended. The Union declared war on humanity. Armies were mobilized, fleets prepared, and the Chancellor made a speech calling humans the architects of cosmic death. But the war never truly began. When the first Union fleet entered human space, it found no resistance. Instead, it found wreckage, broken stations, derelict ships, and ghost signals whispering human voices saying the same words, "Too late." The fleet's command ship tried to retreat, but all contact was lost. For a brief moment, the sensors showed something immense approaching from the dark edge, something so vast it covered half the sky. Then the feed went black. The Union began to realize the truth too late. The humans weren't fighting them. They were fighting it. Admiral Donovan's final message spread across the surviving networks. This isn't about borders or power. This is about survival. If you come near us, you'll feed it too. Stay away. But most didn't listen. The fear had turned to madness. Civilizations started collapsing under their own paranoia. Planets destroyed their own satellites to stop infection. Some even burned their archives, believing the echo traveled through data and memory. In a way, they were right. It didn't need ships to spread. It spread through thought. And every time someone spoke its name, it learned more. On one dying world, an Alari scholar realized something terrifying. Their records of old star maps were changing. Whole constellations had vanished not just from the sky, but from history. Even memories of them were fading. When he tried to tell others, they looked at him in confusion. What stars? That region has always been empty. He screamed, but no one understood. The echo was not just erasing, it was rewriting reality. Humanity fought on, burning entire sectors with the Dawnfire weapons, cutting away pieces of the galaxy like a surgeon removing infected flesh. Billions of lives were lost. The aliens called them monsters, but the humans didn't care anymore. They were beyond saving themselves. On Earth, the skies glowed red as orbital arrays fired day and night. The oceans boiled, the cities trembled, and humanity's last generations lived under the shadow of the weapon that would destroy them too. Admiral Donovan watched from the bridge of the Terran flagship Valiant as sectors blinked out of existence one after another. His second officer asked, "Sir, how much longer can we hold?" Donovan's voice was quiet. "Until there's nothing left to save." On the outer rim, the last remnants of the Union gathered for one final strike. They believed they could stop both humanity and the Echo with a combined assault. Thousands of ships jumped toward Sol System, but what they found was not war, it was silence. The planets were surrounded by a halo of light, the Dawnfire grid glowing like a dying sun. The Echo's presence was visible now, a vast black wave moving through space like living shadow. It swallowed light, time, and matter. The Union fleet opened fire, but their weapons passed through the darkness like stones thrown into water. Then their systems began to fail one by one. Pilots heard whispers in their helmets, calling their names, repeating their own thoughts back to them. Some ships turned against each other without command. Others simply vanished, leaving behind drifting wrecks filled with frozen echoes of their crew, voices still speaking though their bodies were gone. From the heart of the storm, the Valiant transmitted one final broadcast. Admiral Donovan's voice was steady but tired. "To whoever still hears this, we told you not to awaken it. We tried to protect you. We warned you. But now it's awake, and we can't stop it anymore. If you want to live, forget. Do not look for us. Do not remember." Then the signal ended. Moments later, sensors across the galaxy detected a massive energy surge near Earth. The Dawnfire array reached full activation, connecting every human system into one final burning line. For a brief moment, the stars around Sol flared brighter than ever before, then everything went dark. The light was gone, the signals gone, the humans gone. The Union fleets that survived drifted in silence, watching the black wave collapse inward and vanish. For the first time in centuries, there was peace, but it was the peace of a grave. The Union had fallen, and humanity's final fire had burned itself out. Yet in the deep void beyond the ashes, something still whispered. It wasn't gone. It was waiting. And it remembered every voice that had ever spoken its name. Silence ruled the galaxy after the fall of the Union. The once bright and crowded networks of communication had turned into empty static. Countless civilizations were gone, their names erased, their histories forgotten. The stars near the old human borders still flickered strangely, as if time itself was uncertain there. Most who survived avoided that region completely. They called it the burned expanse, a cursed place where nothing living should ever go. But deep inside that darkness, humanity was not entirely gone. Hidden among the shattered remains of their systems were fragments of their fleets, underground bunkers, and secret colonies that had survived the fire. They were scarred, broken, but not finished. Admiral Ray Donovan was still alive, though few knew it. He had escaped the final activation of the Dawnfire array aboard the Valiant's sister ship, the Resolute. For months, he had been drifting through the ruins of the old human core, watching the remains of planets spin like ash in the void. His people were scattered, but they were not defeated. Because humanity had one last weapon left, a plan they had never dared to use. It was called Project Dawnfire Protocol 2, or as soldiers whispered, Project Counterstrike. It was not a weapon of destruction, but of reversal. The scientists who designed it believed that if they could concentrate enough energy in one place, they might not destroy the Echo but freeze it, lock it inside a stasis field made of its own reflection. It was madness, but madness was all they had left. Donovan gathered the surviving fleets through coded messages that only humans could recognize. They came from every corner of the dying galaxy. Battle-scarred ships, half-functional cruisers, civilian transports turned into weapons. Together, they formed the last armada of humankind. The Echo had spread far by then. It no longer hid in the shadows, it moved through subspace like a tide of black glass. Everywhere it passed, stars dimmed. Planets cracked. Space itself seemed to fold inward. The Echo had learned from every civilization it consumed, and it was beginning to speak in all their voices. Entire systems heard the same broadcast at once, a chorus of the lost saying, "We are still here." But humanity refused to join that chorus. In the heart of the burned expanse, the Resolute and her fleet prepared for the impossible. The engineers rebuilt old Dawnfire satellites, turning them into massive stasis generators. Scientists worked around the clock, half mad from exhaustion and fear, whispering that the Echo could already hear their thoughts. They had to move fast before it found them. The plan was simple: lure the Echo to a trap near the dying star of Epsilon Serpentis, the last functioning beacon in human space, then activate the generators and create a field strong enough to freeze its core frequency. The cost would be everything. The energy release would burn every ship and planet within hundreds of light years. But Donovan didn't care. Humanity had already lost its home, its name, its place in the stars. Now it fought only for silence. When the time came, the Resolute sent a signal into the dark. It was not a weapon command or a beacon of war. It was a recording. The same message humanity had sent centuries ago: "You really don't want this." The signal spread across the void like a whisper. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the darkness began to move. It came slowly at first, a black shimmer spreading across the void. Then faster, like a storm rushing toward light. Every ship in the human fleet could feel it, not through sensors but in their minds. The Echo was coming. Its voice filled every channel, every thought, every dream. It spoke in millions of tones at once, using the memories of those it had taken. "Why fight?" it asked. "We are you. We remember you. We love you." Some crew members broke under the sound, tearing at their helmets, screaming until they went silent. Others prayed. Donovan stood at the command bridge, unmoving, his hands clenched around the controls. "It's lying," he said softly. "It doesn't love anything. Fire the beacons." The Dawnfire network lit up across the void, each generator flaring like a newborn sun. The light hit the Echo's leading edge, and for the first time in centuries, it recoiled. The stasis field began to form, a shimmering sphere of frozen distortion. Ships shook, hulls cracked, men screamed as energy overloaded their systems. But the trap was working. The Echo's advance slowed, then trembled. Its voice turned into a roar of rage and pain that shook the universe itself. "You cannot stop the silence," it screamed through every system at once. The stasis generators began to collapse under the pressure, their cores melting into light. One by one, ships exploded, feeding their energy into the growing field. The Resolute's crew knew they would not survive. The Admiral turned to his officers and gave the only order left. "Hold the line." Every surviving ship rammed into position, forming a ring of burning metal around the containment field. For a single blinding moment, the Echo froze. Its shape, if it could be called that, appeared like a giant sphere of black fire, locked inside a shell of light. Then the entire region went silent. Sensors went dark. Power died. The Echo was gone, or so they thought. The surviving humans drifted among the wreckage, half alive, half mad. Some began to hear voices again, faint and familiar. The whispers said things like, "You did it," and "Thank you," but they did not come from their radios. They came from inside their minds. Donovan sat in the dark bridge of the Resolute, staring at the fading starlight. He recorded one last message. "If anyone ever hears this, we stopped it for now. But the cost was everything. We are the last light of humanity. Remember us, but do not come here. Do not seek the burned expanse. The Echo sleeps again, and we will guard its tomb." He ended the transmission, knowing no one might ever receive it. Outside, the field around Epsilon Serpentis glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then even that light went out. The counterstrike was over. The galaxy was safe, at least for a while. But somewhere, deep within the frozen darkness, something stirred. A single voice whispered back into the void, soft and patient. "We remember." The stasis field around Epsilon Serpentis held for a long time. Days turned to months, months to years, and the galaxy slowly began to believe that the Echo was truly gone. The survivors of humanity lived in the shadows, scattered across ruined colonies and drifting ships, trying to rebuild something resembling life. But deep within the frozen light of the containment zone, something still moved. It was faint, like a heartbeat beneath layers of ice, but it was there. Admiral Ray Donovan knew it before anyone else. His ship, the Resolute, had survived the counterstrike by a miracle, trapped near the edge of the field. The engines were dead, the crew reduced to a handful of survivors, but the Admiral never left his post. He spent his days staring at the flickering starlight and listening to the faint whispers that came through the static. At first, he thought it was memory. Then he realized it was speaking again. The Echo was not destroyed, only sleeping, gathering strength. It was waiting for thought, for sound, for someone to remember. That was how it began before, and that was how it would return. The Admiral recorded one last message and sent it through the remaining satellites. "To any human still alive, do not speak of it, do not remember it, do not dream of it. Let the silence be our shield." He sealed the message inside a data capsule and launched it toward the outer colonies, hoping someone would understand. But not everyone did. On the far edges of human space, scavenger fleets searched the ruins of the old Union worlds, hunting for lost technology and relics of the Dawnfire era. They found fragments of data, shards of stories, pieces of warnings that made no sense. Some ignored them, others grew curious. Curiosity had always been humanity's greatest strength, and its greatest curse. A small crew aboard a salvager named Nomad discovered one of the old Dawnfire transmitters drifting among wreckage. They didn't know what it was, only that it still held power. When they activated it, a signal burst across the void, piercing the silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the stars near Epsilon Serpentis began to flicker. Across the expanse, old satellites came online by themselves, relaying a single message: it remembers. On the Resolute, Donovan felt the change immediately. The static grew louder, the whispers sharper. He looked out the viewport and saw the light of the stasis field trembling, cracks forming in the frozen surface. He knew what it meant. They woke it, he whispered. After all this time, they woke it. He tried to send a warning, but the communications were dead. Power surged and died again. The crew scrambled to reroute systems, but the lights dimmed one by one. Then, for the first time in centuries, the Echo moved. The black mass inside the stasis field rippled, stretching toward the stars. The containment lines burned, one after another, until the light shattered completely. A wave of darkness spread outward, swallowing the old human defenses. The Echo was free again. But this time, humanity was ready. In secret, scattered human enclaves had continued the Admiral's work. They had rebuilt fragments of Dawnfire technology and developed something new. The Solar Lance, a weapon designed not to destroy but to scatter energy across time itself. It was theory, unstable and dangerous, but it might delay the Echo long enough for others to escape. The Resolute's engineers reactivated the last remaining array. Donovan stood at the command chair, his face illuminated by the dying light of the stars. "We end it here," he said. "This is the final stand." The ship's engines groaned as they powered up for the last jump. The coordinates were set, straight into the heart of the darkness. As they entered the black wave, the crew felt reality distort around them. Voices screamed in their minds, showing them memories of Earth, of home, of lost faces. The Echo tried to break them by showing everything they had lost. Donovan held firm. "We remember," he said quietly. "But we do not surrender." The Solar Lance activated. Light burst from the ship like a spear, cutting through the blackness. For a moment, the darkness recoiled, and stars reappeared. The energy bent space, twisting the flow of time. The Resolute's hull began to melt, its systems burning out, but the beam kept shining. The Echo screamed, not in pain but in confusion. It was being torn apart, scattered into fragments across space and time, unable to hold its form. The Admiral watched the display flicker and fade. "Hold it steady," he ordered, though he knew no one could hear him now. The ship was disintegrating. In the final seconds, he opened a transmission to all frequencies. "To any who survive this, remember what we fought for. Remember who we were. But do not awaken it again. Let this be our last fire." The beam intensified, collapsing the entire region into a white explosion of light. When it faded, Epsilon Serpentis was gone. The coordinates where it once stood were now empty, only a faint distortion in the void. Across the galaxy, strange anomalies appeared: ghost signals, flashes of light, fragments of human voices carried through the stars. Some said it was the Echo trying to return. Others said it was the souls of the fallen, still guarding the galaxy. In truth, no one knew. What they did know was that the darkness no longer spread. The Echo was gone, or scattered so thin it could no longer form thought. The last of humanity's fleets were lost, their ships reduced to drifting wrecks. But their sacrifice had bought the galaxy another chance. In time, new civilizations rose from the ashes. They looked to the stars with wonder, never knowing the fire that had once burned there. But sometimes, in the deepest parts of space, old sensors would pick up a faint signal. It was always the same, an old human voice whispering through the static. "We warned you." And then, silence. The final stand had ended, but humanity's warning remained, echoing forever through the stars, a ghostly reminder that even at the edge of extinction, mankind's will burned brighter than any sun. They were gone, yet their defiance endured, a flame that no darkness could ever truly extinguish. Centuries passed after the counterstrike. The burned expanse became a myth whispered among the few civilizations that had survived the Age of Darkness. Most refused to believe humanity had ever existed at all. Their ruins were gone, their records erased, their language forgotten. Yet deep inside the expanse, under the silent stars of Epsilon Serpentis, something still remained. The frozen shell that had trapped the echo still pulsed faintly, hidden within a storm of radiation and silence. For generations, no ship dared enter that place, until one did. It was a small exploration vessel from the outer rim, piloted by a group of young explorers searching for lost technology. They called themselves the Children of the Void, descendants of the survivors who had once fled the wars of the Union. Their leader, a woman named Lyra, had always dreamed of finding the truth about humanity. Her grandmother had told her stories of people who burned the stars themselves to save everyone. They were monsters and heroes both, she used to say. If not for them, nothing would be left. Lyra grew up believing that. So when her scanners detected strange energy readings near the old human border, she couldn't resist. Her crew begged her not to go. The expanse is cursed, one said. Ships don't return from there. But Lyra only smiled. Then we'll be the first. The Asterian entered the burned expanse under a cloak of silence. The stars here looked wrong, dim and twisted, as if light itself had forgotten how to shine. Wreckage floated everywhere, the remains of ships older than memory, their metal fused with glass, their hulls still marked with strange human letters. The ship's computer translated some of the markings. They were warnings. Do not enter. Turn back. It sleeps. But curiosity is a fire that no fear can kill. The crew continued until they reached the source of the signal, a massive sphere of frozen light, cracked and flickering like dying ice. The scanners could barely read it, only registering faint bursts of energy. Lyra stared at it in awe. This is it, she whispered. This is where they made their last stand. As they moved closer, the silence deepened. The ship's systems began to flicker, and the air grew cold. Then they heard it, a voice, faint but clear, coming through the static. This is Admiral Ray Donovan. To anyone still out there. The crew froze. The message was old, maybe thousands of years old, but it sounded alive. The voice repeated, "Do not awaken it. Do not seek the light." Then it ended. For a moment, no one spoke. Finally, Lyra said softly, "He knew someone would come. They sent out drones to scan the surface of the sphere. One of them touched it, and everything changed." The sphere flared to life, blindingly bright. The energy wave knocked the Asterian off course, sending it spinning through the void. When power returned, the sphere had cracked open, and something was moving inside it. It was not solid, not shadow, but something between, a swirling shape of light and darkness, shifting like liquid fire. The echo was awake. At first, it did not move toward them. It only watched, as if studying them. Lyra felt it in her mind, a cold whisper crawling behind her thoughts. "You are not them," it said. "But you remember them." She tried to speak, but her voice trembled. "We are their children," she said. "Humanity's legacy lives in us." The echo's shape rippled. Humanity, the ones who burned the stars. They tried to destroy the silence. They failed. Lyra shook her head. "They stopped you once." "For a moment," the echo said, its voice like 1,000 echoes overlapping. "But everything ends. Even light." The Asterian systems began to fail again. The crew scrambled to restore control, but the echo's presence grew stronger, feeding on their fear. Lyra realized then what humanity must have understood long ago. The echo didn't feed on matter. It fed on memory, emotion, and will. It lived through remembrance. If it could make them think about it, speak about it, it would live again. "Turn off all systems," she shouted. "No signals, no words." But it was too late. The echo was already inside. The ship's logs began rewriting themselves. The faces of the crew appeared and disappeared from records. Lyra felt her own name slipping away. Desperate, she accessed the last working terminal and began recording. "This is Lyra of the Asterian. The stories were true. The humans fought the darkness and locked it here. If anyone hears this, do not come to the expanse. Forget this place. Forget us. The echo's voice filled the room. You cannot forget what is already part of you. The hull began to break apart, light spilling in through the cracks. Lyra looked out one last time at the stars. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw shapes, ghostly figures standing in the light, watching. Human figures. They did not move or speak, but she felt peace, as if they were standing guard. They're still here, she whispered. Then everything went white. The Asterion was gone. Years later, explorers from the new colonies near the rim picked up a strange signal. It was faint, broken, but it carried a human voice. It said only one thing. We warned you. The scientists dismissed it as interference, a trick of cosmic noise. But in the silent regions of the burned expanse, a faint pulse of light began to grow again, slow and rhythmic, like the beating of a heart. Somewhere within that light, the echo whispered in the voice of Admiral Donovan, "It never ends." And in that moment, the universe learned the final truth about humanity. Even in death, they were the fire that refused to go out. Their light might fade, their names might vanish, but their will, their defiance, would echo forever through the stars. Because humanity had never truly died. It had become the warning itself, whispered endlessly to every corner of creation. You really don't want this.